Hello, everyone. Welcome to another product management podcast at Seekamentor. My name is Dhruv Gupta, working as a product owner based out of London. Today, we have Ruturaj Dekane with us, and he's coming with uh, a wealth of experience in product management. Welcome, Ruturaj.
Hey, Dhruv, thanks for having me on your podcast.
Yeah, it's our pleasure, and thank you for joining this podcast. And we are really excited to know a little bit more about you and your experience. So, why don't you introduce yourself?
Cool. Yeah. So, hello everyone. I'm Ruturaj Dekne. Currently a group product manager at a company called Inframarket, which is like a pioneer company in B2B construction tech space, right? I have about 13 years of experience in product management. The last 1 year is where I've been at Inframarket. Before this, to start off my first 10 years, kind of my formative years of product management were with Microsoft, where I was working on various different problems and products. A bunch of time spent in Azure on disaster recovery, on Azure Commerce, on migrating workloads to Azure, and problems related to that. Then I have also spent some time with Bing, looking at the Bing sports area, primarily cricket, tennis, golf, and rugby. Uh, Kind of the fun year because my job was all about watching sports and building the experiences for them. Um, so after about 10 years at Microsoft, I moved to another company called Compass, which was a tech-enabled brokerage out of the US, where I was kind of building the real estate knowledge graph, one of the first knowledge graphs for real estate, where we kind of tried to get a lot of insights out of the graph for our real estate agents to do, sell faster and kind of, be more productive. Um, yeah, and right now at Inframarket, I'm working on many of the platform pieces for the tech stack that we have at Inframarket, and also look at the what we call the loyalty app, which is kind of helping our influencers get some rewards when they purchase our products. That's about me.
Great. Yeah, that's great. Good to know. Can you just tell us about your journey getting into product management? I understand that you directly started working with Microsoft, but then how did you land your job, first job as a PM, and what motivated you to get into product management?
Okay, so that's I got hired. Even during the interview, I didn't know what I was being interviewed for, and in the end, I was offered a job for product management. So it was called program management back then in 2011. So I didn't know what product management was all about. So there was really no motivation for me to really get into this. Right. Though at that one night, before accepting the offer, I did speak to a lot of product managers at Microsoft and a few, seniors who told me that this is going to be something great. So there was no really motivation as such. I thought, I would be a coder for life. But um, yeah, I think, once I joined Microsoft, it was a fun journey. The really kind of learning on the job, right, and learning from others, right? Because at that point in time, the product manager as a title or as a function was not really well defined outside. What we had was everything that was within Microsoft, and essentially we had to kind of, learn on the go, learn from a managers, learn from a lot of senior product managers out there, right? So yeah, I just kind of my formative years where everything was done on the job.
Yeah. That's I think with most product managers, that we learn on the job more, and product management is that kind of practice itself. That you when you get into the dirt, and then you understand a lot of things. So
Right.
so on that, right, a lot of people, a lot of aspiring product managers who wanted to move into product management, they have this question: okay, what is the difference between program management and product management role in general? So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, interesting question. So when I joined Microsoft back in 2011, the title in Microsoft was program manager, right? And essentially, if you look back, what program managers did at Microsoft was really product management, right? Sometimes slightly even more, because you got the opportunity to do a lot of other things, right? Maybe do technical program management, or even do some sort of pre-sales discussions, or even get into user research and do a lot of other things, by the virtue of the title of program management. That said, I think even today there are a various number of titles out there, right? There is program manager, product manager, technical product manager, product owner, various combinations of it. Ultimately, what matters is what the organization wants you to do in your role, right? And that really defines, what you'll be doing in a day-to-day life. But essentially, in all cases, the fundamental crux is about being able to talk to customers, understand their pain points, um, kind of rally your teams to make sure that we are solving the right problem and really delivering the value to the customers, right? And problem solving, definitely bringing the problem to the table is one piece of it. Problem solving is another piece of what the product managers or program managers and product owners do. But essentially, being able to understand your customers, finding their top needs, problems, and solving for them and delivering value is what you should be really doing. The title really can be flexible in different organizations.
Yeah, completely. Uh, you talked about understanding the user, their pain points. And in your experience, how someone who's there in the product management or wanted to get into product management can identify the real problem statement to solve, right, for the end user.
Yeah. So, uh, identifying the real problem statement, right, is the crux in that question is the word real, right?
Yeah.
Because kind of like sitting, somewhere, you can always dream that, hey, maybe this is a good problem to solve. But knowing whether it is a real problem to solve is the crux of it, right? And see, I think overall, a lot of organizations employ different ways of finding the realness, right? A lot of times it is gut, right, or some instincts that you have, right, when you're typically on a 0 to 1, right? Or you could use a lot of data that you have, and learn from that data and say that, hey, it looks like there is some issue here. We are seeing some drop offs here, or we are seeing some spikes here, or you're seeing some bounce offs here, and maybe this is the problem that we need to solve, right? um, Another example is kind of getting direct feedback, right, for existing products, right, and learning from the feedback that you have, right? But essentially, I think one of the core uh, powers for product managers is being able to connect with a customer, right? Talk to them, right? Understand what really motivates them,
Yeah.
what's their journey in the task that they're trying to do, right? Uh, and then identifying what are the most painful parts of their journey, right? Those are the real problems that they have, and then trying to solve for them, right? Now, if you look at it again, you're going to have a lot of journeys, a lot of pain points across the journeys, right? So being able to kind of quantify them, or kind of put a severity to them, and kind of bringing building that empathy to say, hey, why is this problem the most important problem, is actually very important, right? But I think being able to um, talk to customers, and kind of learning from their journeys is very important, for the product manager to identify the real problem, right?
Hmm.
Now, again, just a short thought here, right? Typically, you can go and ask for various things, and they will talk about various problems, right? But I think finally, you also need to align to what you know your organization is trying to solve for, right? You're not solving world hunger, right? But trying to get the the right problems that your team or your organization can solve and make the right impact is also important. But yeah, I think there's nothing better than just talking to customers. There are various ways of doing that, right? Like even listening to support calls and learning, how pained your customers are when they're not able to do something is a great insight, right?
Mm.
So, you know, yeah, you can go on different ways you can find the real uh,
Yeah.
pains. But yeah, I mean, I think talking to customers and listening from the customers is like there's no replacement for that.
Yeah, completely. And I think that's the crux of the role as well. That you need to work for the customer, and you are the voice of the customer in the organization, right? So, and in the end, what you mentioned about marrying the user pain points with the company strategy or company vision and goals, right? Which eventually drives value for both the parties. So yeah, that's a really good insight with respect to that. And at only the next question is, how do you approach the user research part of it, or that entire process of researching and identifying, okay, that we'll focus on this particular problem.
Mhm. Um, Yeah, so see, user research, that particular term is probably held very closely, by maybe the design teams and the user researcher teams, right? And they
Mm,
have very standard ways and frameworks of kind of doing certain things like user research, right? But what I can talk about is how can a product manager do it, right?
yeah, yeah.
Because like I said before, there is no way to kind of separate out learning from real customers, their real journeys, and which in some sense is a user research, right? Uh,
Mm,
uh, so essentially being able to learn from or listen to customers, their journeys, being able to identify their pain points and laying them out as the different learnings, right?
mm,
Which the entire team should actually internalize and kind of understand, so that when they finally solve the problem, they're solving the right problem, right? That's the crux of what you want to land with a user research that you're trying to do.
mm, mm.
uh, how do you go about it, right? And I'm going to just share some ways that I have tried doing it, and of course there could be various ways of doing it. Like I said before, again, fundamentally being able to go and talk to customers and being, with them in their journey and trying to understand the entire path of their journey, right, is
Mm,
actually very important, right? Sometimes what happens is you try to think that, hey, this is the problem that they're trying to, this is the problem they might have, and you start in a very localized manner about, hey, how do you do this, or how do you do that, or what's your journey in that. But I think a good way is actually to keep your mind very open and
mm,
kind of get into the entire journey of your user, right? What does that user do from right from waking up, getting to office, or trying to do their task till the end of the day, and where does the problem that you're trying to learn about fit in that entire journey, right?
mm, mm,
That kind of gives you an entire picture about, hey, is it a big problem? Is it a localized big problem, or is it a part of a larger problem that you want to solve, right? And
mm,
this has really helped me because very often, we have realized that the problem actually starts somewhere else, and the solution might be far away, right?
mm,
So
mm,
the first thing is actually having a real open mind and trying to understand the entire journey of the user, right?
mm,
Which in many words, folks say is kind of building the entire persona for the user, right? That's number one. Second thing is, when you go to a customer, actually being extremely unbiased about um, the problem that you're trying to solve, or a solution that you might have in mind, right? Very often, you think that, hey, I think this is a great piece of technology and this might solve the problem. So let me ask those questions that will, kind of help mix the technology with the customer problem, right?
yeah,
Uh, might work a few times, but I think the right way is just learning in a very unbiased way, what your customers' problems are, right?
mm,
Um, Now, a slightly more, how to, the tactical how to that I do, right? Um, in a set of customer interviews, or trying to understand their journeys, you can start with zero biases or zero hypotheses to start with. After 3 or 4 interviews, you can actually start forming certain hypotheses on different problems that they have, or trying to go deeper into some of the problems that they have, right? So over a period of like 4 or 5 interviews, the next set of interviews, you can actually do slightly more onion peeling, and kind of validating or invalidating your hypothesis, and trying to do more research, right? At the end, you would actually have a very clear set of ideas, or themes of problems that they have, where you can actually have even stronger hypotheses, right? And that is where you could actually move into a different way of gaining support, which is doing a more quantitative research. You could send out surveys, you could send out a broader questionnaire for somebody to react to it and get support on validating or invalidating your hypotheses, right? After you do all of this, I think the key thing is about being able to present your learnings in some sort of way to your your stakeholders, right? Trying to discover the key pain points. What is the user really looking for? What does success look like, right? That's also another important piece that you should end your UXR with, right? Frankly, I think that when you do a UXR, and what I have found is that when you present it out to a team, the team should be really excited about solving the problem, right? Um, uh, uh, that's where you can kind of bring a lot of value in the process that you have taken, the long journey you have taken to discover the problem, identify the real problem, and kind of bring your teams, engineering teams, to say, hey, this is the problem that we should solve. So yeah, just a rough uh, thought approach to doing a UXR.
This is really helpful. I think that for any product manager, it is very important that you get in touch with your users, right? Either through interviews, questionnaire, or whatever way, and understand, talk to them. I think their underlying needs you'll get to know once you peel the onion, right? With multiple interviews, questionnaires, etc. And an important aspect you covered is with respect to presenting that information to the stakeholders. I think collaboration and presenting that vision, that this is what we are trying to solve, and get everybody excited, is also an important aspect of the job of a product manager, right? So I think, yeah, this is bang on. And then the next part is that once we have identified the problem statement, right, then how do we manage the short term and the long term product roadmap? Because this is the bread and butter in terms of you'll have many things to do, but then again, some would have short term impact, some would have a long term impact. Then how do we prioritize which one first and take that forward?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, interesting question, right? And I think to start off, what I'm going to say is that any sort of prioritization or creating the roadmap, right,
Hmm.
is a lot of art and science. There is no uh, prescriptive way to do that, right?
Yeah.
Uh, what you're essentially trying to do is, with all the problems that you have, you are trying to create a journey for your engineering team, or your stakeholders, to kind of deliver value, right? In what tranches are you actually going to deliver the value to your customer? And the same story actually needs to be told to your customers, that hey, we are going to deliver value to you in this phase, or in this set of tranches, right? Or this set of versions, the way we say it, right? Um, so essentially, that's your end goal of being able to create a roadmap, right? And uh, there are definitely a lot of internal and external forces that come into play, right? That hey, there's bandwidth, and there is some burning problem, right? This is what the customer is asking for. This is a big customer asking for it. So essentially, it's a little bit of an art, but what you need to come out with is some sort of a sorted, prioritized order of things that you want to deliver, right? The value that you want to deliver, right? once you come up with that, the prioritized list, it is also essential to kind of create a story about what the value is all about. It is not
Yeah.
about saying, I'll do a feature 1, then a feature 2, then a feature 3, and a feature 4, right? Being able to say that, hey, we are going to focus on everything about compliance first, right? And then you're going to focus on reliability. And then you're going to focus on certain delighter things that our users are looking for, right? When you're talking to your customers, that, you're giving them a story that, hey, we are first trying to build trust, then we are trying to, um,
My bad.
okay. No. And then we are trying to build innovative things for you, right? So being able to spin a story about what your backlog is all about, right? Is actually very important as part of creating your roadmap, right?
Yeah.
Um, how would you really do the stack ranking or the ordering? Um, Out there are a lot of frameworks like Rice and
Mm,
Moscow,
mm,
everything, right?
mm. Yeah.
I've never been able to use them really on the job, right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of gut call, being able to look at data and being able to say that, hey, why this will make an impact, right? Internally, you might do some sort of a Rice, but it's not necessarily you need to really be very, very excruciatingly detailed about it, right? Um,
Mm,
I think, like I said, it's like an art, um, but the end result is being able to create a story of how you are delivering the value to your end customer, right? And if you build a nice story, I think your customers love it. If they don't like it, you're going to get feedback. You can change it, right? So I think
mm.
being able to tell the right story about your backlog or your roadmap is what's the end result is.
Completely, completely. And again, once we have finalized the backlog, finalized that this is the roadmap, etc., and then an important aspect of the job is that you share the progress with your senior leadership, you share the achievements, the failures, blockers, etc. So the next question is on that only, that how do you share the progress regarding your work or your team is doing, and what is the next product enhancement going on, etc., with your stakeholders, with your senior leadership, etc.
Right, right. Yeah, Dhruv. So what I can say is, first of all, that stakeholder management, one of the most important
Yeah.
cornerstones for a product manager, right? And I don't think I have personally nailed it yet, right? I think it's a very different ball game. um,
Mm.
if you think about it, there are various reasons why you actually need to do kind of a status report out, right? I think uh, one is making sure you're kind of tracking the project, which is like the very most important thing, right? You're tracking the project to a success, right?
Mm.
Also building visibility on different things that are completing and different things that need help, right? And also essentially being able to keep your leadership aware about where you are, right? In a at maybe a 10,000 feet view, right? Just having a summary of it, right? So,
Mm.
but the fact is that all three of them might need different ways of actually reporting it out, right? Somebody needs it very detailed, somebody needs it like a 3-line summary, right? So it's still a very tricky problem, and fundamentally what matters is when you're reporting something out, who is the audience, and
Yeah.
being able to build that report out for that audience, right? So that's the first thing that you need to be worried about or know about, right? um, Next thing is about um, making sure that your entire team is with you in that journey, right?
Yeah.
uh, and I'll share a pitfall that I do very often, right? That you actually start building that awareness when things go orange or red, right? um, uh,
Mm.
I think the most important thing is to start kind of sharing progress updates or kind of report outs very early on in different projects or in
Mm.
your app, right? um, that brings in a collaborative environment for everyone to know like who is accountable for something, where are we with it, right? And are we going in the right direction? And being able to ask for help early on, right?
Yeah.
Too red or too orange, and being able to, if you end up sharing a report, then it kind of becomes a little tricky to, bring all your team together again, right? So like I talked about, knowing who your audience is, right? Is it a senior leadership, or is it your team, or it could even be your customers, right? When you're trying to let them know where you're in the roadmap,
Yeah.
kind of choosing the right granularity and kind of doing it continuously right from the beginning to end, so that everybody is involved, right? That's actually very important. One of the things I want to call out is about celebrating success, right? Um, we do a lot of report outs to say that, hey, this is going on track and this is not on track and we need help. But when things really complete, even the smallest of the things, when they complete, I think celebrating smaller successes actually help motivate the team, right? And whether you do it via your status reports, or whether you create different forums for it, right? Any way, you as a product manager can take, or you can kind of work with your organization to take um, a direction where you start celebrating smaller successes, right? One example that we do in our organization today is actually run demo days every month, where the entire team comes together and actually presents out the smallest of the things that they've done, right?
Mm.
Without really having a judgment on it, right? The end goal is actually being able to see something working and celebrating it. It's not a forum for giving feedback on saying that, hey, you could have done it differently. That's for your day-to-day jobs. But I think that motivates the team to kind of always build small impactful things and just start celebrating them.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic, initiative, which I think organizations or product managers can also adopt. I think it's great way to engage people and let them know that what's the best thing coming out or what we have done till now. It's not only praising the things which are good, with respect to the product, but also engaging the end users or your stakeholders in something which is great in a sense for the company, right? So it completely makes sense. And again, I'll just move a little bit now from the day-to-day jobs to more for the aspiring managers, right? What they should do. So another question which a lot of aspiring managers have is, what are the top skills that recruiters are looking for in a product managers? How can one learn these and transition into product management, etc.?
Mhm, mhm. Yeah. So, what skills, or what are the few things that someone is looking for when interviewing a product manager, right?
Hmm.
Um, I think fundamentally, again, just like you tend to try and understand your customers, uh, you should try and understand your interviewer, right? And try to understand what is the problem that he's posing, right? Um, Very often, someone, just, you ask for a question and then somebody just jumps to an answer, right? But just the way you do it in your day-to-day product management, you should actually try to understand, hey, what is the problem, right? What are the different facets of the problem, right? Are there certain constraints that somebody is working with or somebody has in mind, and kind of uh, unravel and kind of discuss and debate the problem together, right? That is very important, because typically, what the interviewer is looking for is, uh, can you kind of apply similar approaches and frameworks in your day to day, right? And if tomorrow someone tells you, hey, solve a problem, and if you directly jump to a solution, then that just kind of breaks the direction you're going, right? So fundamentally, understanding the question, and kind of onion peeling the question and getting to the right problem that you're solving for, right? Um, the second piece of the interviewing that what happens in a product management interview is, typically we solve, and again, I there are various ways actually a product management interview runs, right? I mean, there are, you try to solve for a product um, problem, or you might actually solve for some sort of a actually on ground designing of what the
Correct.
solution is all about, right?
Hmm.
But when you have understood the problem, um, typically it is about some customer persona, right?
Yeah.
And being able to instantaneously go to that customer persona and kind of create um, a strong customer journey for that persona is
Hmm.
very important, right? Uh,
Hmm.
Now, you might not know every customer out there, right?
Yeah.
But being able to put your mind to, thinking about it, right? Like a common man,
Hmm.
very rationally, and creating a very rational journey out of it, right? Is very important. Because if you don't align on the journey with the interviewer, maybe the interviewer is thinking of a completely different journey, right? So being able to first align on the journey that you have is actually the next most important thing. And going in the customer journey in the most excruciating detail is very important to discover the problems in that journey.
Hmm.
Once you know the problems in the journey, you can actually solve for them.
Yeah.
But that's when the problem solving comes at the end, right? But
Hmm.
if you do not know the customer journey, if you do not know the constraints that your interviewer is thinking about, you cannot come to the pain points that
Correct.
your hypothetical customer might have, right, in the customer journey, right? So being able to understand the interviewer, what the problem is all about, being able to create the customer journey and identifying the pain points in that customer journey are the three key things I usually look for, right?
Hmm.
The final aspect of problem solving is, of course, there, right? Being able to think of different ways of solving that for that pain point is important. But I think that the first three things are more important than that, right? You might actually, go wrong on giving the solution, but identifying the problem is what the product manager is supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
So that is where I think, um, as a product manage as a product manager who's probably going to give interviews or aspiring to become a product manager should actually kind of
Hmm.
focus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this is rightly apt in the sense that first try to understand the problem statement, right? Understand the pain points of the user, right? Or in the sense what you are saying, that the interviewer is asking you the question for a purpose. He wants to understand whether you are curious about the problem itself, right? So if you don't understand the problem or to solve, then you can't provide solution. So this suggestion, I think what Ruturaj is saying is that first, put more focus on the problem itself. Spend some time in understanding the problem. Ask the interviewee the probing questions with respect to that problem first, right? Why of the problem? Why are we doing this? Why actually we are putting our mind into this? Why is it needed, right? And
Right.
then the part comes up with respect to what or how are we going to do it, etc. So I think first approach is always be curious about the question itself, the problem itself, and identify the stakeholders or the users which is impacted by them, then the use cases, etc., with respect to that problem, and then think of providing a solution. So I think that's the right approach to go with respect to this question, or what they are looking at least from interviewee point of view. Great. So again, on that aspect, the next point would be that if somebody who's looking to transition to product management, how can they do it? And if you have any advice for them how to go about it. Most of the people are quite confused. Should I do any certification? Should I, where should I focus my energies, etc.? So yeah, any inputs on that, Ruturaj? That would be really helpful.
Yeah, I mean, so today there is a ton of content
Yeah.
on the internet, about what um, a product manager can actually do. And there are so many facets that, probably I also don't know so many different facets of, what you could do as a product manager in a particular organization, right? Um,
Mm,
when you're looking to transition, Let me show, when you said you're looking to transition, you're typically saying that, hey, you're probably in a particular space trying to, you have a particular kind of job today, right? Maybe it could be a developer, or it could be you could be in marketing, or you could be in sales, and you're trying to go into the product management space, right? Uh, yeah, I think one of the ways we all say is product manager is like a mini CEO, right?
Mm.
It's one of the hub to the spokes of your teams, your development teams, your marketing teams, your sales teams, your customer support teams, maybe talking to your legal teams, and you're kind of sitting in the middle trying to orchestrate the entire roadmap and create it and understand the customer problems and create the roadmap and so on, right? So you're kind of um, in a mini CEO role, right? And at that point, you're already kind of a leader, right? You are going to work with many more stakeholders than typically um, someone else at the same experience level, right? Um, so when you're actually trying to transition, um, kind of um, trying to do some of the PM 101s, right? Trying to understand the customer, right? Trying to understand the pain point and kind of build the prioritized stack rank of the roadmap is a core aspect, right?
Yeah.
Um, like it is still an art, but something that you can actually learn via practice, right? You could do this even today, right? On the job that you have, and kind of learn um, on the job that you have right now, and kind of practice from there, right? Um, but really, the what really happens when you go into product management is, completely what you're going to learn on the job, right? When
Mm.
you're given, you're thrown into the well and say that, hey, go and solve a supply chain problem, right? Or go and solve, how uh, you can actually build an elevator for the blind, right? If you're really
Mm.
in that space, right?
Yeah.
It's a very, very different ball game. So to really
Mm.
transition, I think trying some flavor of product management in your day-to-day life, right?
Mm.
In the problem space that you're already in, and kind of applying your mind to it, will kind of gear your mind towards the product management space. And then, of course, the entire internet and different organizations, even like Seekamentor, is there to kind of give you kind of hands-on trainings, or kind of a flair of what it would be in the real job, right? But yeah, I think it's a fun space, right?
Yeah.
It's a it's not an easy space, right? Because like I said, it's like a mini CEO.
Yeah.
So it's fairly, always with sort of pressure, a lot of different problems, a lot of balls in the air, trying to juggle through them, and trying to, balance for your team, for your customer. Um, it's something that, that is best learned on the job.
Yeah. No, completely. I think this is a valid feedback in the sense that I think, yeah, anybody can move to product management if they have worked in the business, right? They have an understanding of the business. They might be in some way interacting with the end users or the end customers. I mean, it depends on B2C or a B2B company you are in or your customers are. But as you mentioned, it's very important that you think from users' point of view, right? You start thinking from their point of view, and I think products are all around you in the sense that whether if you're in a particular vertical B2C or a B2B, there are other competitors as well who are doing stuff. So
Mhm.
so I try to engage that industry where you move, try to move in. So understand that industry, understand the products, etc. Right? So yeah, I mean that is one path. Yeah. Yeah.
Good point, right? Like what you talked about, the different industry and the different domains, right? I
Mm.
think there are now product managers across the space, right?
Yeah.
Because you need someone, um, who's really thinking about the customer and trying to identify the biggest pain points that they have, right?
Yeah.
and that's essentially the crux of it, right? You could be in different domains. You could be in healthcare, you could be in commerce, you could be in fintech, right? But being able to really connect with your users and with your customers there, right?
Mm,
And discover their pain points, like, period, right?
yeah.
And it's like I keep saying, it is an art. um,
Mm,
but if you kind of love doing that,
mm,
I
mm,
think you'll kind of enjoy the journey, right? A lot of times it is a lot of talking, by the way, right? A lot of listening and kind of kind of formulating different ways of going about the problem. Um, but yeah, again, when you're transitioning in, don't expect that you know everything. Um, Learning from people around you is also, very beneficial, right?
yes.
That's how I learned most of the product management
Mm,
stuff that I apply today. But yeah, I think keep an open mind. Try to learn from the customers, and yeah, then you can actually
yeah.
do well.
Definitely, definitely. And another thing you can keep in mind is, at least based on my experiences, as Ruturaj already mentioned, that even if you are in marketing or some other role, account management, sales, etc., within a company, then it's always easy to move within the company itself, right? Because you understand the company processes, you understand who are the customers, right? Whichever domain you are working in. So then start talking to product management people within your company, what kind of work they are doing, what kind of what is their approach in the sense of product management, and how can you build it, right? So start talking to people. I think collaboration works better within a company, right? And communication is a great tool to leverage with people. So try leveraging that, make relationship within the company, and then you can move internally as well. I think, as Ruturaj rightly mentioned, that it's kind of a job where you learn the most within the job, right? Trying hands on. So that is constraint for a few people. But then again, as I mentioned, that try talking to people and you'll understand what it is all about, and then take your approach accordingly, take help from people, or like Ruturaj, who's always there to help people. So yeah, yeah, definitely, I think that's a good way to go about it. And I think, yeah, these are the points which I was thinking of covering. Please feel free to share any comments or your views on our video and our podcast, and we'll be happy to take it forward and reply you within chat itself. And lastly, any points, Ruturaj, before we close the podcast?
No, Dhruv, actually, thanks a lot for these questions, right? Actually, um, it also kind of helped formalize some thoughts for myself. But yeah, I think always, available and, kind of happy to help the the broader product management community to kind of transition into PM role, um, or also kind of like to brainstorm a lot of different problems and thoughts, right? I think product managers come with a lot of energy, and when a
Hmm.
lot of product managers just talk and exchange ideas, it's really satisfying, right? So um yeah, definitely would love to learn from the broader community for myself also.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a pleasure, talking to you, Ruturaj, and hearing your thoughts on product management, how aspiring PMs can move into product management, and I think it's a great session we had. A lot of good points, good inputs for the product community itself, and thank you so much again, for joining us on this podcast. It was really a pleasure, having you here, and all the best to you, and all the best to all the aspiring PMs as well.
Yep.
See you guys.